Hi, my name is Lucy, and for our group project for Manchester Codes, we created a fitness tracking app called Rep. Our app is aimed at gym goers and anyone interested in fitness to note down their training sessions. We wanted to create an easy, straightforward app for someone to be able to track their progress, see how they improve over time, and successfully reach their fitness goals. We used Google Meets around as well as Slack in terms of communication. We created 2 Git repositories, one for front end and one for back end, to store and share our code. And we also used Trello as a virtual to-do board we could all contribute to. Not only that, we used a Google Doc to throw in ideas which we could brainstorm throughout the journey and create user journeys to have a better understanding as to who would benefit from using our app. In terms of our MVP, we chose 3 points we wanted to concentrate on: being able to log the workout sessions, store the workout sessions, and track any progress. In terms of the theme and the colours, we went quite unisex. We didn't want to cater to just one gender. In terms of our front-end technologies, we built our app using React, CSS, and NPM packages including React Router and Axios. We also used snapshot testing with Jest to check that our app was rendering correctly, and had authorization set up for users to be able to sign in, log in, and tailor their profile towards their needs. With our back-end technologies, we went a little bit different than something that we had used and learned in the course. We decided to go for MongoDB. We did this as a cloud database in which we could all connect to the same database, and we found that to be more flexible. We used Node.js and Express.js for our APIs. In terms of the challenges that we came across, we found that because we hadn't used MongoDB before, connecting the Express database to React was a little bit challenging at first, but something that we soon overcame. The same with storing the workouts. We found that there was a few ways to do it, but ended up finding that the way that we used was the easiest and the best way. And also styling the login page. This was something that we simply overcame. We were stuck as we'd created 2 different routes to one login page, with styling one even though it hadn't been rendered. So we decided to get rid of that one and style the one that had been rendered. In terms of the progress for our app, adding social media links and the ability to connect with friends or a wider community seemed like a great idea. Also adding different types of equipment, exercises and video demos. Another great thing for our app would to be include a personal trainer for a personalised workout plan, especially as you get to see how you progress. The plans could change via how you can lift more or do more. And also maybe they could offer support. Thank you for watching this presentation, and also a huge thank you to all the Manchester Codes tutors. You've been incredible throughout. Will go through the code, and Mas will be able to show you a demo of our app in action. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name's Will, and I'm going to be taking you through our code for Rep. So I'm going to start with the back end. So our back end used 2 technologies really, so that's MongoDB and Express. So obviously MongoDB, the database, and Express handling our routing. You could say Node happens here as well. That's part of the stack, but we don't really use that too much. But that handles that middle layer of being able to update the information as we send the requests to and from the database. So in terms of what we did, we focused mainly on just the routing, because what Mongo does for us is handle the modeling, which made it really easy for us. So all we really did is have this connection, which used the Mongo client, and then a server file, which obviously handles that interaction, and then the routes. So in this routes file, we don't really have a lot going on. So we've got 2 collections, basically. So we've got our exercises collection, which is just a list of exercises that you can complete, and our sessions, which is going to be, well, we'll have 2 requests. We'll have a get request, which you can see here, which is just grabbing every session in the list, basically, and that's going to be used for our history. And then we'll also have our post request, which is a completed session that we've done within the app. And we can then send that back to the database, and that becomes part of our history and part of any charts to show what you've done. That's your tracking. you can see the get request here for the exercises. So in terms of our front end, we've used a couple of different technologies. So we've used React, obviously, to handle the actual front end, but we've used some third-party libraries like Moment just to be able to handle time tracking for the length of the session, and Axios just to actually handle the requests. So within this add session, we handle this get time here, which will get called back when we actually click finish. So it'll get the moment that we rendered that page, and it will calculate the difference of the start time against the moment that's grabbed when they click the finish, and that'll be our actual time that's been spent on the session. We have this clever little handle select, which is just going to check whether the selected exercises array actually has anything in it, and if there is, then you want to check whether the type of exercise that's been clicked equals anything else that's already in that array. The reason for that is just to make sure that if I select, say, bicep curl is only clicked once. I don't want to be able to add bicep curl infinite amount of times, because that'll mess your exercise tracking up. You also want to make sure that something has been selected, so we just have this little handle here just to check that the selected exercise is actually there and it's not an empty value or a null value. And then if everything is completely okay, then we add that exercise to that array, and that will be mapped in the actual here. We have a couple of other handlers. That's just checking that set IDs are there. We're using them to make sure that every set that we add's got something that we can refer back to, because if you make a mistake, you want to be able to remove it, but how do you know which one to remove? So it's done all here based against that set ID, and that just increments the set ID every time we add a new one to the list. Then we have this handle finish, which uses moment to grab today's date, and then we post that session. So we'll have the date, the finish time, and the sets that were completed. In terms of that autocomplete I was talking about, so that is handled with this other library called Material UI. So we set these exercises in state, we get the actual list of exercises from our database. That is handled in MongoDB here, so you can see our exercises collection and you can see our list. In terms of then going from there, so those are set. The user, from their point of view, they would select one of those exercises, and that selected value is basically setting that exercise to exactly that, the exercise that they picked. And on click, that is passed back up to add session, which we can then send back down to our add session card. The add session card doesn't have a lot going on here. That's just a way of us being able to handle those collection of different sets and weights used and reps completed. We've popped down the title of the exercise, the set ID, and the handlers for adding and removing a set. And that is all handled by this form, which lets the user input the information that they want to input. In terms of the charts themselves, so it handles it with another third-party library called chart.js. So you do a get to get that information. The x-axis is the date a group of exercises was completed, and then the number of exercises will go in the y-axis, so then you've got a visual representation of the number of exercises you did on that date. We'd like a couple of more graphs just to show the average weights that were used on those days as well. We didn't get to that by this point, but that's an easy extension of the app. You can see we just sliced the last 7 in the list. The reason for that is if I go into this session table, you can see that they're filtered in order based against when they were completed by. So you've got the 6th, the 7th, etc. So the most recent will get appended to the end. And we return that as a bar chart. And that then went on our app homepage when you're logged in, so it's the first thing. But then we finish off with this history components, which again is just using Axios to get our history data, and we just present that in a table. So we have the date time, the title of anything completed, and their weights and reps respectively. Just to finish off on one last thing with testing, because we struggled because we had so many third-party libraries. So in app specifically, what we had to do was mock that auto function. So we created a fake user and we presented with that mock whether they were authenticated or not. So in this case, if they're not, they should see a login button. So we set that to false, we mocked all these functions out, and based against that, do we see a login button? And then alternatively, if authenticated is true, they should see a rep bit of text, because that's when you would see our logo. We also had the problem with chart getting in the way because it renders on app. We had a couple of problems with that, so what we did was we had to import the dev dependency for Canvas, which is a chart.js specific thing, and then this window resize observer, and we mocked these functions out, and that let the test pass then. So that is everything from a code point of view. I will now pass on to Masiye, and he can show you it live in action. Thanks.
Hello, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are. My name's Masiye. I form part of the trio for the Rep app. This will be a live demo of our application that we've built over the last, 3 to 4 weeks. However, first and foremost, I want to thank my teammates, both Lucy and Will, and also the whole Dementia Codes team for helping us along over the last 6 months in terms of learning all these new technologies. Now, let's go and start thinking about demoing this application. Now, click login as normal. We can then click continue with Google. We've actually used a tool called Ortho. This is an identity access management tool just to make sure the process is frictionless as possible. Now, as you can see here, this is currently in its web app form. Now, what we want to do is actually use a mobile app simulator to actually show you how it's meant to be used from its intended purpose and from its intended POV. Now, if we click on this little mobile app simulator here, we can see the current iteration of what it looks like in a mobile phone or today's standard mobile phone, which will be an iPhone 14 Pro Max. Now, you'll firstly notice all of our exercises that we've done. And then from there, if we want to think about actually adding some workouts, we can add a session with the little plus button. Select a workout. Now we've got two options here. We can either use the actual drop down list and start selecting them from there, or alternatively we can actually start thinking about typing them. And you can see we've got an autocomplete embedded into the application just to make it easier from a user experience point of view. Let's select deadlift, which is a barbell activity. We can select add. And in this case, we want to say this is going to be a 70 kg weight and it's going to be for 5 reps. And we can add that, and you can see it auto populates every time that we add a new set. Now, let's think about what other back workouts that we want to do. So back workouts, we can scroll down here, and let's say it's going to be a lat pull down. So lat pull down, add that to the workout, and you can see it gets added at the bottom. In this case, we'll probably just do 36 kg lat pull down. And it'll be 4 reps at a time. Add that in there. And again, we can go back to the top, see what other workouts that we've got left. So we'll add bent over 1 arm row. Add that. And we've also got a seated row. We can add that in there as well. Now set the weights. So in this case, it'll be a 28 kg dumbbell for 10 reps. Add the set in there. And then for a seated row, this case it might just be a little bit lighter. We're not feeling too bolshy this afternoon or evening or morning. And then we've got 5 reps there. And once we're happy with all the exercises that we've done, maybe we didn't feel that strong that day and we can just remove one of the sets that we've done from that workout, or we can just add it back in. Really up to the user at the end of the day. Now, once that's done, we can then finish it, and then we get a session finished notification at the top of the screen. Now, the next part is, all right, we want to refer back to this workout and see exactly how it looked at the time. So we can go back to the history, scroll down through the pages, through all our history that we've done. We can see here this current workout that's been added to our catalogue of workouts that we've done over the last weeks and months and days and so on and so forth. And that is pretty much that in terms of the Rep app. First and foremost, huge shout out to my team, both Lucy and Will. Thank you. Another huge shout out to the whole Manchester Codes cohort for May 2022. Thank you. And last but not least, thank you to all the Manchester Codes tutors over the last 6 months. Really appreciate it. Thank you.